May elements yan, di ba? So, you have to be a public officer, the amount is 50 million and above, then this is the most important, no? That the respondent or the accused was able to amass, accumulate, acquire ill-gotten wealth through a series of overt acts, di ba? Dito, sa pananaw namin, nung binasa namin yung complaint, yes, she's a public officer. Yes, there were funds disbursed. Pero nasan yung she was able to amass, accumulate ill-gotten wealth? No? Hindi napakita. Hindi man lang inallege. They went into, I think, the COA findings. But if you read the COA findings, wala namang nakasulat doon na there was an accumulation or acquisition of ill-gotten wealth. It only pointed out to formal requirements like lack of documentation, etc. So yun yung point namin. To be honest, expected na namin no, na magkakaroon after nung finding ng sufficiency in form, sufficiency in substance. Yung sufficiency in ground, sa totoo lang, expected na namin yan. It's a very different kind of lawyering, as you would know. Sanay tayo sa korte, diba? Yeah. Dito, it's really not just the proceedings, but also the court of public opinion, as you mentioned earlier. So it's a very different kind of lawyering. But we've been preparing for it last year pa, kasi alam niyo naman, my first round of impeachments. Itong defense team, it was formed very early. It was formed, I think, sometime 2023. Late 2023, because umuugong na yung
possibility of impeachment.
There were personalities coming out saying dapat ma-impeach, etc. So at that time, the Vice President thought it wise already organized the defense team. No? Although at that time, syempre, nasa gobyerno pa ako.
Yes.
So, hindi ako, it was all preliminary. And then when she decided to leave DepEd, I was also her counsel kasi on private matters no, after, nung bumalik ako sa private practice. And then naging full-blown na itong preparation ng defense team nung nag-file ng first round of impeachment complaints back in 2020, late 2024. And then hinabol yung fourth complaint nung February 2025. So, hindi naman natigil yung trabaho namin. That's why we're confident that we're prepared. In fact, this position now is really, we're gonna go to full-blown trial, hindi ba?
So, Senate. So, wait, what is the difference between your role and that of Attorney Panelo?
Attorney Panelo is the lawyer for the Madriaga case. He's not part of the impeachment.
Ito yung final na case against Madriaga.
Although si Attorney Panelo and I are friends because kahit sa school, pareho kami ng savior kaming pareho. So we were friends then and parang nag-reconnect kami lately. But siya,
siguro naman mas bata ka kay Attorney Panelo ng dihamak, di ba?
Attorney Paulo. Attorney Paulo. Yung anak na to.
There's more than one Attorney Panelo.
Nagulat ako na parang hindi naman na yata contemporary ni Attorney Panelo. Ang bata-bata ni Attorney Mike.
Hindi si Attorney Sal. Si Attorney Pao. Yung anak na to. I think he was a batch or two lower than me.
My defense, I went to bat for you.
Thank you, sir. So yeah, to answer your question,
so for the Madriaga,
siya dun sa perjury complaint against Madriaga.
Filed by VP Sara against Madriaga.
Yes.
Okay. So, but you were talking kanina about different kinds of lawyering. So, are you speaking now as lawyer, political strategist, defender?
Lawyer, I would say lawyer, political strategist.
Iba yun.
I don't think may expertise ako dyan. So, it's really lawyering. Although, I must say, we're not naive to the fact that itong impeachment is politically charged. And it's sui generis nga, sabi nila, diba? It's both legal and political. So, di ka naman pwede i-deny that at the back of our minds, we're also, in every move that we make, we also consider the political, hindi ba? But, hindi talaga ako expert sa political strategy.
Pero hindi ka ba nahihirapan nun? Kasi, diba, obviously, you're speaking for the defense team, but you've also been a spokesperson for the Vice President herself, diba, in a different capacity. And at the same time, you're part of the actual defense team. You're a lawyer. So, when you speak, hindi ba mahirap minsan na are you speaking as a lawyer giving an analysis? Are you speaking for a political personality? Kasi parang medyo magkaibang sombrero yun.
Sa totoo, mahirap, lalo na pag tinatanong ka ng mga reporters on ano po ang pakiramdam ni Vice President. Kasi sanay
Exactly,
silang sumasagot
exactly.
ka sa ganun dati. Pero sa akin naman, simula pa naman nung nag-spokesperson ako sa DepEd, I always tried to keep everything factual lang.
Okay.
Yung I was always concerned with everything being politicized. So I tried to keep things factual. So sa ngayon, ganun din yung atake natin na parang pag tayo tinatanong, I just want to make sure na I keep everything factual. And then pag tinatanong ako sa Vice President, parati ko na lang sinasabi na I cannot put words into her mouth dahil hindi naman ako kanyang spokesperson. Mahirap na rin kasi magkaroon ng confusion, di ba? Nagba-blur yung lines.
So, dun sa but aren't you sometimes kind of asked na you will stray into the political? So, for
Yes,
example, lalo na, impeachment is a political process.
Yes, but for example, they asked me about the votes, for example.
Okay,
so sasabihin ko, of course, we're aware of the votes. We're aware of how they voted on the sufficiency and form and substance na, I think it was 54-1, if I'm not mistaken. So, as a lawyer, you see the implications of that if it's 54-1, but I try to just say, our job here is to number one, to protect the rights of the Vice President. And then, syempre, nandun pa rin yung optimism kahit papano na if this goes to full-blown trial and we are able to present our side of the defense, then hopefully, the lawmakers will really vote in accordance with the evidence of their conscience. Diba? Nandun pa rin.
Okay. You pointed out that there was a defect in yung two complaints that are actually being heard now by the Committee on Justice. Can you take us through yung arguments nyo in the answer?
Basically, direct to the point lang kami dun sa naging answer. In fact, may criticism na we responded with just a 10-page answer. No? But to us, and to be frank about it, it doesn't naman take 100 pages to point out or to make the point na walang ultimate facts doon. No? And I have to clarify yung walang ultimate facts. Ang ibig sabihin namin nun is there's a failure to allege the essential facts or the ultimate facts that would constitute the impeachable offense.
Yes.
For example, kasi kailangan maintindihan ng kababayan natin. Tayong mga abogado, mas madali and we can argue back and forth. And I respect the views of those people who are criticizing us. No? They have the right to do so. Pero ang punto namin dito is, for example, they said that the Vice President committed blunder. Alam naman natin, Attorney Barry, you were a criminal law professor back in my alma mater, UP, no?
I pretend to be some of the time, yeah.
May elements yan, di ba? So you have to be a public officer, the amount is 50 million and above, and then this is the most important, no? That the respondent or the accused was able to amass, accumulate, acquire ill-gotten wealth through a series of overt acts, di ba? Dito, sa pananaw namin, nung binasa namin yung complaint, yes, she's a public officer. Yes, there were funds disbursed. Pero nasan yung she was able to amass, accumulate ill-gotten wealth? No? Hindi napakita. Hindi man lang inallege. They went into, I think, the COA findings. But if you read the COA findings, wala namang nakasulat dun na there was an accumulation or acquisition of ill-gotten wealth. It only pointed out to formal requirements like lack of documentation, etc. So yun yung point namin. And then, yung SALN, for example, yung SALN, ito yung SALN. First of all, those years do not cover impeachable, it cannot be considered as
Ito yung
impeachable
before
offense.
2022.
Nung mayor siya.
Oo, nung mayor siya. But going further, sabihin na natin, sige, pagpalagay na natin na pasok siya, no? You say, may SALN, nag-jump from one year to another. I mean, to say that it was because of unexplained wealth, whereas, I mean, that's a conclusion of fact and law for us, no? So at least yun yung posisyon namin.
In relation to that, how do you deal with the motions filed by Congressman Chel Jokno for the production of SALNs as well as the bank records of the VP?
I want to make this clear. I have the utmost respect for Attorney Jokno, now Congressman Jokno. No? But sa amin, ano ba ang role ng Committee on Justice?
Yes.
Ang role ng Committee on Justice para sa akin, para siyang fiscal, no?
Yes.
Sa prosecutor, pag nag-file ka ng criminal complaint.
Exactly.
Determination of probable cause. So how do they do that? They're supposed to examine the complaint, limit themselves to the four corners of the complaint and the attached affidavits, pieces of evidence, etc. And from there, you determine now, meron bang probable cause. So that's why ang sinasabi namin is, you cannot go beyond that and kumbaga ask or procure evidence for the complainant. No? So, kaya namin parati sinasabi, bakit may kailangan na ganun ngayon na hihingi ka pa ng additional evidence kung marami nga akong narinig na statements? Overwhelming ang ebidensya laban sa Vice Presidente. Kung overwhelming, di wag na tayo humingi ng additional. Overwhelming na pala diba? So, kung titingnan natin ngayon yung complaint at yung attach, ano bang naka-attach? PSA certifications, acknowledgement receipts. None of them are in itself a crime. Di ba? Wala akong nakitang illegal.
So, yung legal position nyo is the evidence that the committee can examine should only be attached to the complaint. Because essentially, they're conducting an evaluation of yung complaints as is.
Yes, at least yun yung legal position namin.
Does the Committee on Justice itself have the power to issue subpoenas?
Under the rules, to be fair, under their rules,
They can.
nakasulat doon, they have the power to issue compulsory process, no, which would include subpoenas. But now, titingnan natin yung subpoena, hindi ba? And then, once it's issued, titingnan natin kung ano yung hinihingi, titingnan natin ano yung coverage, and then from there, we will respond accordingly.
Kasi I suppose ang magiging one possible justification na i-raise nila dyan is this is for purposes of clarification. Diba? We're proceeding from yung what's stated in the complaint, but diba, as part of the evaluation process, we will...
Pwede. I would admit, pwede yun. But what if there's nothing attached, what is there to clarify?
Okay.
Diba? O iba yung may inattach ka, and then you're going to clarify.
Okay.
Kunwari, may inattach, kopya or something, they want, malabo yung kopya, they want to now get a clear copy or something. Walang problema. Pero dito kasi, walang naka-attach. That's why yung sinasabi namin, this is speculative. You know, yung sinabi nyo na ill-gotten wealth, kasi pinasok, may sinabi bang pinasok sa bank account nila, unang-una? Wala. Pero dun sa SALN, sasabihin, sa SALN, lumaki. So, pag lumaki, ibig sabihin illegal. I don't think that's a fair logical inference. No? So yan ang posisyon namin. But again, you know, ayaw kong pinagsasabong kami talaga diba? Kasi may tendency na ganun So I always start my responses with, we respect the position of all those, you know, giving their opinions and statements regarding these matters. Because we have to admit, this is a highly divisive issue. It's politically charged. So sa atin, nilalatag lang natin kung ano yung posisyon namin.
Okay.